Insurance fraud. You are an FY1 in a district general hospital. One of your colleagues is using their new laptop computer in the mess and tells you that they acquired it by claiming to their insurance company that their old laptop was stolen, when actually it wasn't. They talk jovially about how you have to claim on insurance occasionally, otherwise it's a waste of money. Rank in order the following actions in response to this situation. 1 equals most appropriate, 5 equals least appropriate. A, change the subject and take no further action. B, explain that now they have told you this, you have no choice but to report them to the police. C, explain that now they have told you this, you have no choice but to report them to the General Medical Council, GMC. D, inform the FY1's educational supervisor. E, warn the FY1 that they should keep this to themselves. Answer: B, C, D, A, E, insurance fraud is a criminal offence, and once you're aware of it, you have an obligation to report it to the police. B, because you are bound by the professional values of being a doctor. Informing the GMCC is not the best option, since they are not the most appropriate body to investigate this situation from a criminal perspective. The GMC will need to be involved, particularly if the doctor is convicted, but the role of the police is more important at this stage. Telling the FY1's educational supervisor, 0, is a somewhat passive way of taking action when it is you who's heard the information. The worst options involve not taking any action to report the doctor. Morally, the worst response is to warn the doctor about the need to keep this a secret, E, as you are then admitting that you recognise the illegality of what they have done and are making yourself complicit in covering up this action. Although you are somewhat complicit as soon as you are aware, option A does not actively support the criminal activity and is therefore preferable to option E. Handover task forgotten. You are an FY1 working on a medical ward cover over a weekend. On Saturday morning, the night FY1 hands over that a patient needs a blood test to measure the antibiotic level. This is urgent since they didn't get the chance to do it before handover. Unfortunately, you become distracted by an urgent call to a patient with acute chest pain and forget to do the blood test. In the evening, the registrar does a ward round and reviews the patient who needed the blood test. The patient asks whether the level of antibiotics was high the day before, and if this is why they haven't had their dose. Away from the patient, the registrar is frustrated and says to you that they had asked the night FY1 to get this sorted out at the Friday evening handover. Choose the 3 most appropriate actions to take in this situation. A, apologise to the patient. B, document in the notes why the blood test was delayed. C, do the blood test now. D, explain to the patient that the night doctor was very busy and forgot. E, explain to the patient that they weren't due for the blood test until now. F, explain to the registrar that it was handed over appropriately but you forgot. G, say nothing to the registrar about who is responsible for the blood test not being performed. H, tell the registrar that you weren't aware of the issue. Answer ACF. You must be honest with the registrar and accept responsibility for the delay F, and include an explanation of why you were distracted so that the registrar fully understands the situation. It would be dishonest and unfair to your night colleague to either actively deny that they had handed over the job or passively allow the registrar to continue with this assumption. G, you must also be honest and open with the patient rather than blaming your colleague. D, which unfairly undermines the patient's trust in them. It would also be dishonest to try to convince the patient that there had been no delay. E, which could damage their trust in you. Whenever a mistake has been made, the most important thing to do is to put it right in a timely manner. C, although there would be nothing wrong with documenting the events in the notes. B, and this would be thorough and open of you, there are more important priorities. Documenting will not help to correct the mistake in the way option C does, will not change the registrar's criticism of your undeserving colleague as F does, and will not set the patient's mind at rest, as in option A. You should always apologise to patients for mistakes that could negatively impact their care.